There we go.
All right. So, Raph, I believe we are live now.
All right. Sounds good.
I see it. It's true. We're live.
You see it? Awesome, awesome. Actually, Raph, why don't you introduce the guy sitting right next to you there?
Sure. This is my associate assistant, Oliver. We've been working together for just over 3 years. Shot, I don't know how many events and weddings so far. It's been over 100 something.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, he's a super
Awesome.
young, talented man. So.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad you could be here, Oliver. Oliver's going to kind of keep track of the thread that's happening in the MagMod community, and if any questions pop up, maybe you can let us know. You got quite the mug there already. I love it.
I like to work it.
You got to get it done, right? Get her done. That's awesome. Well, hey, Raph, we're glad you're here, man. Why don't you tell everyone just kind of a little bit about yourself in the MagMod community, and then we'll get started talking about some of your images.
Sure, awesome. First of all, thanks so much for having me on here and giving me the opportunity to get this whole thing going. I hope it's a series you guys continue to do, and hopefully people can take some things away from there as well. So about me, I mean, I've been shooting officially since 2009 when I started as a part-time business and transitioned into a full-time wedding, about 90% of the time wedding specific business in 2013. I shoot seems to be about 27 weddings a year. That number always somehow ends up at 27. We do same amount of engagement sessions, same amount of engagement sessions that year as well. Yeah, concentrate on weddings specifically. We love doing off-camera flash and just having a good time with our clients. Yeah, that's basically cool. It in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm picking up a little bit of an accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Poland. I didn't think I had one, but man, I guess it comes and goes, I guess.
you know, I'm actually picking up more of the Canadian accent myself.
It's a big mix, yeah, for sure. I was born in Poland, and I moved here in 1990, and just had the Canadian influence since then. So.
So is it process or process?
Process. I'd say process. and I don't know anybody that says a boot. I really don't. I don't know it's a thing. I've never heard anyone say that ever.
There was the best man at a wedding once who said a boot.
Oh, maybe. Anyone.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, hey, man, we're glad you're here. And I just got to ask before we do start talking about some of those images, what turned you on to MagMod, or how did you even discover it? Are you an early adopter? Is it something you started using just in the last year or two? Like, tell us a little bit about how you discovered MagMod and started using it in your work. Yeah,
so it came on actually quite early on. Something that really excited me about photography wasn't just obviously taking photo part of it, but also creating images that had that advertising feel to it, that looked a little bit different, a little bit more magical than what your eye can see. And I think Flash can certainly do that. And so I started looking into David Hobby's stuff, Strobist and things like that, and I tried all those little DIY straw grids and things like that, and I actually saw MagMod as a Kickstarter originally, and shortly after I adopted it into my workflow, and I haven't looked back. So we've been using it for quite a while. Yeah.
Nice. No, I think a lot of us have we kind of go through that evolution of designing or building our own modifiers, and then we get to the point where we feel like, okay, I like it enough where I need to adopt it and just actually go with something that looks a little bit more professional and works every single time I use it. So I was the same way, went through the same exact the process. So
100%. Yeah, there's nothing more embarrassing than like your DIY straw grid like falling apart in the middle of a wedding. It's like, those straws? Yeah, but don't worry. So yeah, it's gotten much better since then.
Yeah. No, absolutely. One thing that always drew me to your work, Raph, was that the fact that you just like the way you control light, and I think that was actually one of the first images I saw of yours, which I posted yesterday in the MagMod community as well. Was that one where you had the groomsmen and you really controlled and focused that light on one particular groom. So I'd love to chat about that here in just a second. But before we do that, can you tell everyone where your website is? So if people want to check out more of your work or see more about who you are, can you tell them a little bit where to find you?
Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. So you can get to my website through raphnogal.com. It's RAPHNOGAL.com. I always get Ralph. There is no L. in the name is just Raph. Think of Raph the Ninja Turtle and not Ralph from The Simpsons. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that's where you can find my latest work is in my blog. I do teasers every time I do a shoot. So a few days later, that's where you'll find my latest sort of work. And,
awesome. And then I assume they can find the same. You have a business page, Raph Nogal, on Facebook as well as Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah, the Facebook business stuff is it's interesting. It just doesn't get a lot of sort of love, so to speak. But yes, certainly you can friend me on Facebook if you want. I'm very happy to sort of share and whatnot and get to know you guys as well. So
awesome. No, and I completely understand about the Facebook idea. I think that's great that you're doing the blog and that people can kind of follow you there. And I think one thing that always stood out for me as well, Raph, is the fact that you were so open in sharing. And that's why when I was thinking about, who would be a good person to kind of get this thing started, you definitely came to mind, and I was glad that you're willing to do it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think this community too, it's all about growing together and learning from each other and just growing together, as opposed to like, it's my secret, I'm not going to tell you. For sure, we all get stronger together. That's the idea.
Absolutely. So that's a great segue, Raph. Let's go ahead and, as I promised everybody, I'd like to keep these chats to about 20, 30 minutes. So we'll have you pull up your first image and maybe just kind of tell us about, the creation process, kind of what was going through your mind when you created it, or why you created a certain way, and maybe what modifiers you used or how you set it up. I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know. Are you able to see that shot now?
Yep, I can.
Perfect. Beautiful. So this image in particular, this was a huge wedding party. There was, I believe, 10 guys here. 3 of them were sort of junior cousins and junior groomsmen. But there's a lot of people. So we did the standard shots. We did the guy, what can you do with 10 guys in a bungalow? We got to take them outside, go for a little walk, do a little, some kind of interaction. There's actually a shot I want to show you. See if this will come up as well on here. It should.
Nice. Yeah, I see that behind the scenes there.
So this is a standard shot. I lay down on the job a lot in a good way. But, so we did them sort of being lit by the sun, pretty standard shot. But then we had a little bit of time, and I thought, well, I like to do a little bit more than just the standard stuff. So let's see if we can turn them around. So I went behind them, basically, and I had them backlit. And at that point, we had a silhouette going. So I needed to sort of focus on the groom because there's quite a bit of these guys around. So we want to make sure that he was sort of standing out from the crowd. And I don't know if you might be old enough to know the movie Mighty Ducks, right? The Flying V. They had their
absolutely
right. So I kind of had that as an inspiration, and I sort of formed them in this Flying V formation, so to speak. And then we brought out the snoots, the Mac snoots, to just light up the groom's face. So it took some tries. It wasn't a first time sort of magical thing. It took 2 or 3 or maybe 5, I can't even remember, to get that snoot perfectly in line with his face. And I think it's a successful image. It sort of focuses your attention on the groom, and that snoot was able to really minimize that beam to just hit his face. You can't even see any detail under his chin. So it was very, very tight, very, very tight beam there. And that's how.
So Raph, did you do any post-processing here? Did you Photoshop, a light out, or like how close was the flash to the groom when you shot this?
Oh man, it was pretty close. I'm going to show you another image here. Let me see here. So you see this one here. This is very close to sort of where we shot it. This is just another example of how that shot was taken. It was taken at I believe 24 millimeters. We were pretty close. I mean, we were 3 feet, 4 feet, something like that. It really helps to have someone like Oliver there, because I can't imagine trying to do this shot with a light stand and like every 3 seconds getting up from the floor, like adjusting it, a little bit, and then going back, getting your composition again, and getting the attention of the 10 guys again, and trying that. With Oliver, I have Oliver a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, a little bit up, a little bit down, and we're able to.
When he's shooting too, I can actually see where the beam is going, even in the daylight usually. So I'm able to adjust as he's shooting, which is
No, that makes a lot of sense. So again, we're looking at the image right now. Oh, and by the way, you mentioned Mighty Ducks. The funny story, I use the Mighty Ducks pose for every groomsman shot. I always tell them, hey guys, we're gonna replicate a scene from one of my favorite movies, Mighty Ducks, and then they all go, oh yeah, flying bee. You know, they all get excited. But funny story about that. One time I did that, and it was a group of groomsmen, and two of them were twins, and the guys are like, hey, we were in that movie. I was like, are you serious? You were in Mighty Ducks? And they said, yeah, we were the twins. I guess it was Mighty Ducks 2, maybe. I'm not really sure, but they said they were the set of twins in that movie, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, exactly. But hey, so if I'm looking at this image, one other question I have about it is, if I were new to photography, what would be the benefit of doing this in camera with the flash, using a mag snoot, you know, with that tight focus light, versus just going in and doing this in post-processing? Like, what if I wanted to just, you know, darken everyone in post-processing, you know, maybe using a radio filter or something like that? I know the answer. I'm wondering, what would be going through your mind? Like, why would you say, hey, I got to do this in camera as opposed to in post-processing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I think there's sort of two answers for that. One is the obvious one, time. Why would I spend hours in Photoshop trying to do that? And again, I'm proficient in Photoshop, but I'm not an expert. So personally, I just wouldn't want to even touch it. And second of all, there's also, you know, there's a satisfaction of getting this in camera and showing it to your client, you know, as soon as you're done, and they're freaking out that how did you do that without Photoshop? Because to everybody, everything is Photoshop. As well. So it's a way to challenge yourself as well. And weddings are, you know, a fast-paced sort of game. And this is a great way to without them getting so boring and sort of doing the same shots over and over. This is one way to really challenge yourself, I find. And yeah, it's pretty rewarding when it certainly works out.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think another thing that kind of comes to my mind is, if you were to take, like, let's just say you did this in Lightroom and you were to edit this and put a radio filter around it or something, the whole sky would be dark. You know what I mean? Like everything would be dark. You would see this kind of funky gradient or vignette around, you know, your groom, but it wouldn't look natural. Like the way it is now, you look at it and you're like, man, that's just badass. Like, it's so natural looking. In that, in other words, the light is falling exactly where it should, but everything else is dark. But there's not this weird vignette, you know, right around the groom, if that makes sense. So I absolutely love it.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I did do a little bit of a what was it, like a de-sharpening on the edges there. I wanted to give it just a little bit more depth of field. I think this was shot at 4.5 f4.5 using high-speed sync. I think at 1/2000th of a second. But I wanted to sort of fade them out even further back. So that was really the only Photoshop that was done, and everything else was in camera. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny now that you bring that up. It almost does kind of look like a tilt shift, sort of, in a little bit of a sense.
Yeah,
so.
It's got that little bit of that for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. I love it. Well, Raph, I appreciate you sharing that. So, what do you have any other images for us that we could take a look at?
Yeah, definitely. Let me load some up here. Let's do this guy here.
And by the way, Raph, as you're bringing that up, a couple of people have mentioned that possible buffer issues on Facebook. And guys, we're recording this show. I believe we are. Let's see here. Yeah, we're recording it. So what we'll do is we'll actually take the recording and we'll post it on our YouTube channel as well. So if anyone is experiencing any kind of buffering issues, or if they want to be able to watch this at a later time, we'll put this out on YouTube or upload it to Facebook, somewhere where you guys can watch it later on as well. So
perfect. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Is this next image up? I'm just having a hard time seeing whether things are popping up for you or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you had mentioned that you have like 4 monitors. You have kind of like a ship in front of you. So
I don't know where to look half the time, and there's a noise that goes off, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's kind of bizarre, but
yeah, no, absolutely. You sound great, and I can see the picture right now. It looks like we have a couple and with really nice controlled lighting. So tell us about it.
Awesome. Yeah, this one was quite a unplanned shoot. This was right after our first look. The couple had the idea was to go outside, and there's this sort of a wedding typical place in just north of Toronto called Kleinburg. A lot of people go there. There's sort of this old school feel, an old town kind of feel. And they lived pretty close. They wanted to go there. And of course, during torrential downpour, that entire day. So they did their first look inside their home, and they're like, yeah, we're shooting here, like in this house. So, this is actually their dining room, their dining room. And so what I try to look for, in different scenes, and it looks very different when you're there. And I'll show you some behind the scenes video as well, of this particular scene. But trying to see what are those sconces, what's that light going to look like when we sort of take it down a few stops, and how can we make this a little bit more dramatic. So let me load up the video actually. That will kind of give you guys an idea, I think, of what the actual place looked like. Let me just see here. And I don't know why I can't. Sorry. Yeah, bear with me here for a second.
Oh, there we go. Now we can see it.
Be able to see it. So you don't need to hear the audio, but you kind of get an idea of sort of what we're dealing with. So this is a dining room. There's stuff on the floor. There's there's sort of different things happening. We have backlit window as well. So I'm going to just sort of give you an idea.
No, that's awesome to be able to see that behind the scenes, because being able to see it there, people go, oh, okay, it wasn't like some phenomenal location with, this incredible venue. It's like literally this is a dining room that essentially was lit with ambient light, but that you were able to, like you said, kind of bring down the light and then just use your flash to really, I like that shot right there. You can actually see where that light is hitting them exactly. Love it.
Yeah. So because of the distance where I was, because there was a table right there, I mean, I could have easily sat on the table, but a little respect to the homeowners as well. So I shot it from a little bit further back, and so this light had to be a little further away from them than I probably would have liked. But again, we actually used a snoot and MagGrid together, and it sounds like a weird combo, but I find that the snoot gives you more of a rectangular shape in terms of the light output shape, and I find that the grid, in addition to that, just sort of rounds it out a little bit more. So we use that to achieve the image, and obviously we exposed for the light bulbs that you see in the shot here. Let me load that up again. There we go.
I love that. I've actually never used that combination before, but I know exactly what you're saying with regards to that snoot kind of giving you that kind of rectangular, almost like a cylinder type look to it. But using that grid, so you're saying the grid will help kind of soften the edges of that and kind of take away that defined shape. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I find it rounds it out a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems to work quite well. We've used it a few times now. But yeah, basically exposing for the lights, and then lighting the couple up with the snoot and the grid combination to get the image you guys see here.
Love that, man.
Yeah, it was really cool. They were like, when I showed it to them, they're kind of freaking out a little bit because they're in their dining room and they're like, I don't know what this guy's doing and and what we're getting, and then they saw it and it was quite cool. So yeah, I don't know. It's all about just sort of finding the potential. It's not obvious. It doesn't have to be so obvious what's actually in front of you, but just finding potential. And actually, right beside that image, or right beside that wall, if you sort of turn to the right, you'll see that there was actually a mirror there. So we worked with that same location and shot into the mirror, and we moved the light on a different sort of in a different angle. And then we created something like that as well.
These are phenomenal. I love this because you're basically showing people, especially with that behind the scenes, you're showing people that you can take a location that is essentially not that exciting, and like you said, there's stuff on the ground and so forth. And by using a little bit of control of light, you can essentially create whatever you want to create, show off only the parts that you want to show off, and really, take an otherwise kind of boring situation and make it something outstanding. So there you go. There you are shooting in the mirror. That's rad, man. I love that.
So this one, we had the snoot on. Oliver positioned this a few times for me to get them, to get that light hitting them perfectly. But yeah, we're shooting right into that mirror. So they basically didn't move. I just moved myself just to create something a little bit different. So, we had to really maximize our time in this location and maximize what we can do with within this house. I mean, it's a beautiful house, obviously, but sorry. So exposing for the bulbs will make everything else shadowed. Sorry, someone just had a question there. So
Yeah.
exposing for the bulbs will certainly, depending how bright they are, if you expose for the bulbs, you'll get obviously proper exposure on the bulbs, so that way they're not blown out and you have some detail, and that will certainly make all parts of the image, all other parts of the image darker. So because there's such a big difference in intensity of light, if you're shooting into a light bulb versus sort of a 3 or 4 meters beside it. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're exactly right. In other words, by exposing to the bulbs, you're able to kind of see the definition of the bulb as opposed to it just being a bright, light right there. And essentially what you're doing is then you're darkening the room. You're bringing the darkness into the room down, and then you're using that flash to really control light wherever you wish it to be. So Oliver had mentioned he's having a hard time responding to comments. Oliver, I'm noticing the same thing is on my computer. It doesn't allow, guys, unfortunately, it doesn't allow us to reply to comments right now. I have a feeling that once the video is no longer live, that we can actually reply to the thread. But if you guys have some comments or questions, feel free to post them, and we'll be happy to try to get to them as we can. And then Raph, if he had mentioned that throughout the day today, he'll check the comment thread, and for those who have watched it, maybe be able to respond when he can over the next few days. So feel free to continue asking those questions. So awesome. I love those 2 images. Those are amazing, Raph. Do you anything else you want to mention about those or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll quickly mention the settings. I know some people like to ask about, what was the ISO, what was sort of the technical stuff. So again, sometimes I find those things really not relevant, because it could be ISO 250 right now, but in an hour from now, or if those light bulbs were a little bit brighter or darker, it would be ISO 400 or 100. So, I mean, this particular image, the last two that I showed here, they were ISO 250, both shot at 35 millimeters. We were at f6.3 at 1/200th of a second, if that helps. But that's basically it. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing those. Those are phenomenal. All 3 of those have been great. I didn't ask you before we went live how many photos you want to share, so I'm going to let you take control. And I know
I think I got 2 more if you
awesome.
If and that's about it. So
I know I would love seeing them, and I'm sure other people would appreciate it as well. I know a lot of people are already mentioning online here that they're loving this. So let's keep going, man.
Good to hear. Beautiful. Cool. So this is one of my favorite images from actually this year. This was our first or second wedding of the year. It was a February wedding. Second, yeah. So again, part of when I shoot, I'm trying to find different angles. I'm trying to find sort of some interesting perspectives and things like that. Looking for leading lines, looking for just some interest in those images. So we worked in the staircase for about half an hour, having different angles, and there was a mirror that we shot into and all that kind of stuff. But when I found this perspective, I saw that little chair and a little glass table there, and I placed a couple just in the corner. I think we used a grid here in this case just to not sort of light up the entire scene, but again, focusing that light. I seem to do that quite a lot. I do like controlling that light and that beam and to only highlight certain parts of the image.
Raph, would you say that your favorite modifier is the grid or
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And of course, gels as well. We do gel a lot. So just matching the ambient light, whether it's natural light or different. This was a chandelier, obviously, with incandescent light bulbs. So
nice.
So we probably used a half CTO on that,
probably,
just to kind of warm it up a little bit. Sometimes I like the difference too. Sometimes having the blue and the yellow mix is quite nice, and it's quite contrasty in terms of color. So it does work, but we do like to match it a lot of the time as well.
Just for the record, because I've seen people asking this before, CTO is color temperature orange, so it's just making your light more orange.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah. So with this image, I was basically on the top floor, shooting down at them. Just a beautiful little expression. Oliver was there at the bottom controlling sort of where that light hits, and I'll show you another behind the scenes. This is just a photograph, so it's nothing. We didn't have our video at the time, but we basically set that up. There's a gel and a grid on there, and you can sort of see the ambient light, what it looked like. It was a nice mix of daylight plus a lot of indoor lighting as well. So we're able to take all that down to sort of our liking, where we'd want it to sort of set the mood. And then use the the MagGrid and the gel to complete the image. I'm trying to get it back on the screen there. Sorry, guys. Here we go. This one was shot at, let me see here. ISO 1250 is a 20 millimeter lens, f4.5 at 1/25th of a second.
Nice. What I'm realizing, Raph, in a lot of these images is that you're basically using flash in a way that you're minimizing the light first. So in other words, a lot of times people think of flash and they think, okay, I got to add light to the situation. But in reality, what you're doing is using camera settings, you're minimizing the light first. You're making it darker than it really was. And then you're just using that flash to almost bring the light back to where it was originally, if that makes sense. In other words, you're essentially almost thinking in reverse terms. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this situation. It's all lit up in this room. I'm going to darken it down, and then I'm just going to add my light wherever I want it, which I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of become part of my style, if I can call it that. And we're all sort of developing our style, I think, at all times. But I'm sort of more drawn to more drama and dramatic images, lots of shadows, lots of dark areas. I want it to be a little bit more magical than what you see with your eye, and I think this certainly allows me to do that, to sort of bring down the ambient light quite a bit. Sometimes 3 stops, sometimes whatever it takes to create some drama, and then just sort of painting that light in certain little pockets where I want to highlight or focus the viewer's attention on something.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Raph, one question that Jeff had as well is he's asking regarding flash power. Do you typically shoot like ETTL, or do you have a particular power? I notice your flash is typically pretty close, but you're using a grid. Are you shooting like at manual 1/64th, 1/32nd? Is there? I know it's going to change for every single photo, but is there maybe a particular place that you like to start with your flashes?
Yes and no. I mean, we like to sort of, depending where we are. I mean, if it's a dark environment, I'm not gonna start at 1/16th or 1/8th. I'm gonna start way lower. So I like to start a little bit lower and work my way up, as opposed to blasting it and then like, am I 5 stops over or am I 2 stops over? Either way, it's way too much. So I like to always start low and then go up. And yeah, it really changes in every situation. I do use manual flash. I just found TTL not to be very reliable. And again, because we're really highlighting little parts of scenes, I think ETL might have a little harder time determining what exactly we're wanting to do. With ProPhoto, I find it a little bit more reliable, but again, we're not using ProPhoto lights for these particular situations. We're just using little speed lights. So
when I think in these situations, when you're using TTL, it's trying to illuminate the whole scene. I mean, it's basically, it's coming back, and it's essentially, and also I find that ETTL or TTL, when it's bouncing off any kind of shiny wood or mirrors or windows, things like that we like to use a lot in this work, and I've seen in some of these photos already, it just is completely unreliable. I mean, sometimes it'll come back and it'll be really strong, and other times it'll be not as much. So shooting in manual, I'm the same way as you. Shooting in manual is definitely more reliable, and you can just make those fine-tune adjustments, depending on if you need a little bit more light or less light. So
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And we're lucky nowadays that we see the back of the camera, and obviously we don't want to chimp all day, but certainly to start off, see where you are. You eventually will get a sense of, okay, we're in this sort of lighting situation. Let's start at 1/64th. That's probably going to get us close, and we might have to do a 2/3 stop, adjustment up or down. You'll be pretty close.
A lot of times we're kind of guessing the power, so we kind of get a ballpark.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess that just comes with practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's all I have for that particular image. I can put another one up for you if we have time, and that might be the last.
Let's do it. Let's do one more here. I'm loving it.
Yeah, so this one, nothing too crazy. Again, shooting. I guess I seem to like stairs apparently with all these examples, but but this was shooting down, to 3 stories, I guess. So the whole point of this shot is to let you guys know that it's so important, I find, to have someone like Oliver assist you at shoots. And I'll show you a little video as well, and you'll be quite evident in the video too. So let me just sort of start this up. It's a bit choppy, but basically, as I'm shading through 3 stories of floors here, telling them what to do and how to pose and sort of what I'm going for. Oliver's holding the light and really adjusting as they move, and you'll see that he's going to walk around as they're moving. He's moving with them as well. So imagine me not having Oliver there, having to come down the stairs, adjust, tilt it 5 degrees, go back upstairs, take the shot. No, that doesn't work. Go back downstairs. You know what I mean? You get the idea. So you can see he's moved from basically the other side of that staircase to this side, basically 90-degree difference here. And that's what makes it so much easier for me as well to create those images for my clients and be able to do it with some kind of speed as well. So I think that's so important. If there's someone that's interested in photography, grab someone, have them help you out. You'll find your work will increase as well in terms of quality and the experience of your clients too. You're not making them wait for an hour to get one photo done.
No, that's great. That's a great tip. I know for me, there's a time where he's unfortunately gone off to college, but I had a guy that I was just paying to come out, and all he would do is help me kind of carry some gear. And then when I came to lighting, he would just be in charge of moving my light stands around as I told him to move, and it made things so much easier. It wasn't expensive. It was a small investment, but it made it so that it made a huge difference in the images. So I agree with you that with regards to having somebody there to kind of just help you out, it's a wonderful tool, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And again, because Oliver and I have been working together for quite a while, we have a really good workflow. We know what, like I'll say thingy, and he'll just grab a snoot or he'll grab a grid depending on the situation. Because sometimes I have some things going through my head, and he'll just know what I need, and we have that really great vibe and relationship.
We say he has his own language called Raphanese, so basically I have to read his mind. What he wants. I figured it out. You guys pretty accurately, actually.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Raph, tell us on that last image with the stairs. What modifiers did you use there as well?
I believe again it's my trusty grid and CTO in this case as well.
And why, for those not familiar with CTOs and they don't use them often, why would you use a CTO in that scenario? Do you remember what was kind of going through your mind and why you thought to use one?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to match the color. Again, I'm looking at the color of the ambient light. So ambient light doesn't necessarily mean just daylight, whatever it is in the environment. So it could be lights, could be LED lights, could be a TV projection. It could be anything that's there at the time. And just sort of matching those just to have the color sort of vibe together. That's really my main reason, yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Raph, this has been really good. I know we've gone about our 30 minutes that I told everyone we'd do. And so this actually worked out really well, though, because, again, you were able to – I loved how you showed not only images, but you actually showed some of those behind-the-scenes videos and the behind-the-scenes shot of you laying down, things like that, so we can all kind of get an idea of, what it's like from the photographer perspective, and then how you were able to take that situation and actually create, these incredible images. So
yeah. Thank you. It's my pleasure to share. Hopefully, you guys got something out of it as well. If there's any questions, you guys can leave some comments, and I'll be happy to continue the conversation after as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I noticed Oliver was filming. It looks like, Oliver, were you just holding a cell phone when you were filming some of the behind the scenes stuff?
Cell phone or GoPro, yeah. When I'm doing the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I have a little GoPro now that I keep around my neck, little session, so I could just put it right to the flash and get some cool angles like that.
That's cool. Are you using that video? Are you guys creating tutorials or workshops or what? I mean,
yeah, I mean, the idea has sort of the idea of hosting a couple of workshops has sort of crossed my mind as well. I did a talk at a local lab here last year and had some really good results, and people sort of interested in more of an intimate setting, kind of 10-person hands-on workshop. So it's sort of we're doing it just basically for that reason, but also to kind of reflect and also look back and be like, hey, what could we have done differently here? Or I like to also get a sense of how I'm interacting with the clients as well. So it's a good idea to, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe there's a better way of saying that, or to achieve the result that you're wanting. So it's all sort of, there's no real plan, but it's just data for now.
Yeah, you know what though? I think we can all learn from that because I mean, any professional in any profession, whether it be an athlete or an actor or whatever, they love having that footage or that film so they can go back and replay it, watch it, and see what they could learn from their situation and do better the next time. And so I think having that was the reason I asked the question, is because it was interesting to me to see how Oliver was taking that film. And it wasn't that it has to be, perfect. It doesn't have to be a videographer following you around, and it's just anything that you can then go back and, like you said, listen to yourself and see yourself and see what, how the lighting setup works and so forth. It's a great idea. I think I'm going to steal that one. I love it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And we used to just do stills, and it was good, but then we'd miss all the stuff in between. So now we have a little hero sessions, super super small, like it's literally this big, and we just record, and that way if someone's asking, oh, how did you get that shot, or let me show you the behind the scenes, and it seems to be a pretty useful tool for now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Hey, Raph, I super appreciate it. Oliver, we appreciate you hanging out and helping us out as well. Really, this has been enlightening for me. I love seeing those behind the scenes, and just appreciate you guys taking the time to tell us a little bit more about those images.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much for having us. And like I said, hopefully someone can take something away from it. That's the idea. So yeah, happy to be the first one to try this out. So really cool. Thanks again for having us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I think it was a success. So thanks again.
Awesome. Sounds great. Cheers.
Take care, Raph. Have a good day, man.
Take care, guys. You too. Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays as well.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right.